Hello, everybody. It is 5:31, and as chair of the board, I'm going to call the meeting to order. We first start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag in the corner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now I'm going to call for the approval of last month's minutes. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I do have a couple of edits to include, and I'll provide these to our recording secretary. On page 12 of the minutes, towards the bottom of the page, 4 paragraphs up, there's a deletion to the words "with specific explanation," and to replace that with "to only the buildings with the legal description." So it would read, Attorney Wallen explained that while normally historic designation of a building would include the site the building is on, there was an opportunity to limit the request to only the buildings with the legal description. And then also on page 13, let's see, 6 paragraphs down, at the end of the first sentence, to take out "to pass a law change to change how taxes are assessed," and replace it with "to handle the tax issue," which would read, Mr. Bray suggested raising the tourist development tax to address rising seawaters. Attorney Wallen explained taxes are regulated by the Florida legislature, and they would have to handle the tax issue. And that's it.
Okay, that's it. So would someone like to make a motion to approve the amended minutes?
I move to approve the amended minutes.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. So the minutes are approved. And next, we're going to have our Assistant City Attorney sign in everyone. You need to be sworn in if you're going to stand up and speak during the meeting.
Hi, I'm Shari. If you're going to talk to the board, please stand and raise your right hand. Waiting on computer dude. Okay, thanks. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. And our first agenda item is case number UDPHP 23020-930 Tequesta Street. Tricia?
Yeah. This is a certificate of appropriateness application for demolition of a 1-story single-family residence identified as a contributing property to the Sailboat Bend Historic District, as per our most recent architectural resource survey. According to the criteria that we have to analyze the application, the general criteria, none of the criteria are met as part of this application. And for the criteria that are outlined for demolition specifically, they are also not met. There is an additional section which was not cited as part of the staff report, so I'd like to amend it verbally to include section 4717-7B, which is the Sailboat Bend Material and Design Guidelines, where the materials that are found within this property are also stated within that section of the code. So with that, staff finds that the application for a certificate of appropriateness for demolition under case number UDP-HP 23020, located at 930 Tequesta Street, does not meet the criteria as outlined in section 472411 D3CI of the ULDR, and does not meet the criteria as outlined in section 472411 D4 of the ULDR. The board must make a motion for approval with conditions or for denial. The board determines they would like to approve this application. There are several conditions that are outlined within the staff report on page 4 for consideration, which includes number 1, the demolition of the structure shall not negatively impact properties within the historic district, and protection from construction debris and construction equipment shall be provided as necessary. 2, this property is located in an archaeologically significant zone, and a cultural resource assessment survey by a qualified professional is required. The completed survey must be submitted and reviewed by preservation staff prior to building permit application for demolition. Following the review of the completed survey, additional archaeological testing or monitoring comments may apply. And attached, there is an archaeological review from our consultant. And 3, this application is subject to the approval by building, zoning, and all ULDR requirements, including landscaping.
Thank you.
May I check?
Yes.
2 things. First, could you do disclosures? And then second,
I was just going to.
okay. And then IT, are we on YouTube? Because folks are telling me that we're not on YouTube. We're not online. Okay.
So we just have to do board disclosures for this project. Richard?
I have to recuse myself from this based on previous properties that I was requested by the city when I have an abutting or adjoining property.
So your property is adjoining this one?
It abuts it, so.
Abuts it, okay. So Madam City Attorney, does that mean we can't vote or hear the,
So this would mean we don't have quorum? So is it your position that this application contributes to a financial gain or loss for you? Or are you abstaining based on potential bias?
I'm basing it on precedents that the city of Fort Lauderdale had requested I recuse myself on previous cases that I had abutting properties.
I don't think that's what it is. So just because you have an abutting property doesn't mean that you have a voting conflict. The issue when it comes to the voting conflict is that does this application affect your financial gain or loss? Or you can actually abstain under a different statute where you would state that you have a potential bias for this application. But if you do choose to abstain, then this application would have to go forward likely at the next meeting because we would not have quorum. But I don't want that to, determine how you opine. It's just that with the voting conflict, merely having an abutting property is not necessarily a financial gain or loss. If you believe so, that it contributes to your financial gain or loss, then you have to state that on the record.
There is a conflict to me because of the facts precedents that the city had set for me. They assumed that an abutting property would have a financial gain when they forced me to recuse myself on a previous agenda item.
I believe that agenda item that you're referring to was the issue with the property with the fence and the wall and all that dispute about that. That was a financial gain or loss issue, but because of that dispute with the fence, wall, et cetera. But I don't want, to talk about that with this. But are you saying that there is a financial gain or loss with this particular application? Because the city attorney gave that opinion based on that dispute with the wall and fence, et cetera, that dealt with finances.
I do not see a difference, and so I will continue to recuse myself based on that precedence that the city set.
I just wanted to clarify, though, are you doing it based on a financial gain or loss or a potential bias? Because it's 2 different statutes and you have to fill out paperwork.
I guess because of your precedents that you said, you're saying it's a financial bias, so.
No,
that's-
not me.
Yeah,
I
well,
think you
the
got
city.
an email from the previous
city,
city attorney,
right.
but that was based on a specific set of facts. But I'm trying to give you a legal opinion on
Right.
what you should fill out on the form if that's what you choose to do. What you choose to do as far as abstaining from voting, it's up to you. We can only advise you, but you have to actually fill out the reason why on the form. So that's why I'm just trying to get clarity on that.
Okay, well, I'll recuse myself and we'll move forward with the appropriate form.
Okay, so is it based on a financial gain or loss? I'm just trying to get to the bottom of what the reason is.
As you're saying, it's the same between the two properties and the two cases, in my opinion. So it's going to have to be the financial, as you're implying.
It's up to you what you choose to abstain. So, Mr. Chair, we'd have to delay this to the next meeting because we do not have quorum.
So I apologize to everybody who's here for this item, but do I hear a motion to, first of all, is it, you're the client's attorney?
Can we just finish disclosures before we go? And
No, it doesn't matter.
but can we open it to the board to have the discussion? I'm not implying that we
Oh.
move Mr. Bray off his stance, but I'm trying to understand if we need to move this to the next meeting. We're down to a board of 6 people. It means we have to have perfect attendance if Mr. Bray continues his position. It puts the applicant in a difficult position, to say the least. So I'm trying to understand what the resolution is, other than being absolutely certain that our other board member will be here, without making this any more challenging for the applicant. So I guess, you don't want to finish disclosures? It's your call.
Yeah, let's finish. I'll
Okay.
give
I live
everybody a
I
chance.
live in Sailboat Bend. I drive by
Okay.
all the time. I walk by all the time.
Okay. And I just drove by.
Okay.
Nothing to disclose. Nothing to disclose.
Okay.
This is kind of a follow-up question, I guess. Trish, you mentioned that if the applicant is delayed for a period of time, that there's an automatic approval. What is that duration? And would that apply to this case?
There's a 180-day period in which we have to review applications that are before a public hearing, and any extension to that would be upon agreeance with the applicant. As of right now, the 180-day expiration from the time when this was determined complete falls on November 4th.
So it's not an automatic approval. That's up to folks to litigate, but it does not state that it's an automatic approval in the statute.
So what does it state?
It's vague.
So if the applicant's attorney put forth, I'm going to call it a petition for lack of a better term, that based on that, as a matter of law, it should be approved, would we have, as a board, assuming for a moment we have a full quorum next month, do we even have jurisdiction to hear it at that point?
You would have to hear it, and it's up to them to appeal if they need to appeal, depending on the outcome of it. It's just, it depends on how the appellate court rules. So far, we've had one case with the city of Fort Lauderdale where the Planning and Zoning Board, they ended up approving an application, and then it went to the city commission for a call-up, and the city commission chose to deny the application. Then they appealed it to the 4th DCA, and then the city ended up losing because by the time it got to the city commission for a call-up, it was beyond the 180 days. However, that's a different scenario because the Planning and Zoning Board, they literally had authority to rule on the site plan level 3, but the city of Fort Lauderdale has a very interesting thing called a call-up that a lot of other people don't have. So the 4th DCA didn't really get it, and so, yeah.
One other part of this discussion, which I was going to talk about later, is how many members should the board have? Is it 9? And so we're
Yes, it's
really.
9 members.
Pardon?
9 members,
And we only have 6.
correct.
I mean, that's the problem. Because-
There is another, suggestion that we could talk about towards the end of the meeting without holding Stephanie up, that I can talk about with you after, we
Okay.
get through this.
We'll talk
But
about
I
that.
will bring it up towards the
Okay,
end of the meeting.
great, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a question. Is there any benefit to the board and to this group to just have a short discussion about this as if it was going to move forward so that if we
can't.
meet, we can't do
We
that?
can't.
I was just trying to kind of get ahead of the game
No.
for next month.
We can't do that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Just
So
asking.
my question to the client's representative, the owner's rep, is would you be amenable to I know you wouldn't like to, but go, putting it on the agenda for next month.
I would, we don't have a choice, so yes, so thank you for the question, Stephanie Toothaker, on behalf of the applicant who is here, along with some of our friends. I would just ask that you please, if you could, Trish, put us first.
Yeah.
And not last,
Yeah, it would be carried over.
okay?
Good.
And we don't have to re-advertise or anything, do we? Because it's an automatic deferral.
They changed the law. There was a case on it. I forgot what date the statute takes effect. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay,
because
just
I
call
think
me.
Yeah, I'll let you know because
Okay.
it takes, I think it's October, but I don't want to say the wrong thing, so.
We'll make sure whatever we have
Yeah.
to do, we'll take care of.
Okay.
Thank you, Shari.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so would somebody like to make a motion to defer this case until next month?
You don't have to do
Oh,
that.
we
We
don't
have
need a
no
motion?
choice. And if you want me to bring up the proposed solution going forward, I can now, or I could wait till the end.
Well, let's wait till later. We
Okay.
don't have to
All
keep
right.
everyone.
Well, thank you.
So, and then, in
and
that case, we will see you next
We'll
month.
we'll bring our party next month in
Oh, great.
October. We look
Only
forward
if
to
the
seeing you
twins come
there.
back.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So our next item is UDP HP 23026, which is 543 North Victoria Park Road. Tricia, should we be saving the papers for that last case? Yes? Okay.
They email it to you, and then it comes in, and you click this link, and Eureka, you save it by the.
Is somebody here? Oh, would you like to, okay. I'm sorry, just checking, okay. Okay, Tricia?
So it's going to be Simone.
Hi, Simone.
Hi, this is my first case.
Good.
Thank you. So the proposal is to replace the existing asphalt shingle, which is a 3-tab, with a high-definition asphalt shingle. This is the Reed Manual House. It's a 1927 bungalow home, and there are criteria that is set forth in the ULDR that we have to find that they qualify with and they comply with. And so staff does find that the application for a COA for major alterations under case number UDP HP 23026, located at 543 North Victoria Park Road, meets the criteria as outlined in section 47-2411D3CI of the ULDR, and meets the criteria as outlined in section 47-2411D3C2. The board must make a motion for approval, a motion for approval with condition, or a motion for a denial. If, however, the board adopts a motion for approval with conditions, the following condition for the COA for major alterations are provided for consideration by the board. The application is subject to the approval by the building, zoning, and all ULDR requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. Did we?
Did you do the disclosures? I don't think I heard it.
I was just
Okay,
going to
sorry,
say that.
sorry.
So we start with disclosures. Richard?
Nothing to disclose.
No disclosure?
None.
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 Okay, do we have the applicant? Someone representing the owner? Would you like to say anything about the project? Well, you have to get up to the podium. That would be great, just to show us the shingles.
So the color is exactly the same.
You have to introduce yourself.
Oh,
on the
hi
record.
everyone. What's going on?
No, what's your name?
My name is Matt Hanley. I'm with Kairos Roofing.
Thank you. Okay.
So the color is the same, manufacturer is the same. The difference is going to be the pattern on here. This is going to be a dimensional pattern. What's on there currently is 3-tab. The main difference is the wind uplift on the 3-tab is 65 miles an hour. This is 130, so it's a better shingle.
Okay,
The color is the same.
great.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Board, Richard? Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have anyone else from the public who would like to speak? If not, we'll go to the board.
No, I don't have any comments. It looks like the property owners have done their due diligence, and it looks like they're trying to maintain the historic nature of the property, so I'm okay.
Alan? Nothing? Nothing?
I'm good with it.
Richard?
No, no comments.
I'll just say that I think the shingle is a very handsome addition to a very handsome home. So I wish you luck. So would somebody like to make a motion? Since I cannot.
I'll motion to approve it. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for certificate of appropriateness for major alterations under case number UDP HP 23026, located 543 North Victoria Park Road, for the replacement of an existing three-tab asphalt shingle roof with a dimensional asphalt shingle roof based on the findings as outlined in the staff memorandum. I don't know if we have any conditions here, do we? And just condition one, that the application be subject to final approval by building, zoning, and all ULDR requirements. And that's it.
Okay.
Second.
And I was about to ask, so Tim seconds it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Good luck with everything. Our next item on the agenda is case number UDP HP 23027, 1000 North Andrews Avenue. Trish or Simone?
This is a certificate of appropriateness application for major alterations and new construction to include the installation of site improvements, new shade structures, signs, water features, and alterations to the existing buildings at Warfield Park, which is located at 1000 North Andrews Avenue and was designated as a historic landmark site in 1989 and named for Davies Warfield, who was the president of the Seaboard Airline Railway. It's currently used as a community park, and these improvements are part of the park bond. In general, it meets the criteria outlined in our ordinance for historic preservation, and the primary aspect that's being added is the new shade structures and the new park equipment. But since it's a historic landmark site, it's something that needs to come before the board for consideration. And with that, staff finds that the application for a certificate of appropriateness for major alterations and new construction under case number UDP-HP 23027, located at 1000 North Andrews Avenue, meets the criteria as outlined in section 472411 D3CI of the ULDR, meets the criteria as outlined in section 472411 D3CII of the ULDR, and meets the criteria as outlined in section 472411 D3CIII of the ULDR. The board must make a motion for approval with conditions or for denial. If the board adopts a motion for approval with conditions, there is 2 conditions provided for the board's consideration. One is provide screening of new electrical service and mechanical equipment. And 2, this application is subject to the approval by building, zoning, and all ULDR requirements.
Thank you. Any disclosures?
I have been by the property many times.
As I have also, I've been by the property.
No disclosure.
Nothing to disclose.
Nothing to disclose.
Okay. In that case, is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak? And then we have the guy from Mr. Parks Department. Sorry about that. Please introduce yourself.
Mark Isaac, project manager for Parks and Recreation. Yeah, my only concern is condition number 1. If there's an opportunity to waive that condition, would be greatly appreciated. Just because it would incur a lot of additional costs and permits and designs if we have to include additional rooftop screening, because it is an existing building with an existing roof. So we would have to consider structural components that would need to be, the structural design so that the screens would be wind load rated, and it would just, if it's possible to waive it, we'd greatly appreciate that.
Wouldn't this be a safety issue, that kids don't come near the machines?
The roof is not accessible to
it's on the
the
roof,
public.
okay.
Yeah, it's, I believe it's screening for the AC equipment.
Screening any mechanical equipment is part of the code. It's also part of the historic preservation design guidelines. So regardless of whether or not it's in the conditions of the approval, it would still be a requirement.
Okay, so there's no, so we triggered that threshold with the renovations because we're not touching the exterior of the building per se.
It's new mechanical equipment?
Yeah,
It's
but
completely
it's
new.
replacing existing.
Yeah, we'd have to discuss it with zoning, but
Okay.
generally with any new equipment on the rooftop, it would require screening.
Okay, because we're just replacing what's existing, so.
Okay. Okay. Did you have anything else to say?
Nope,
Okay.
that's it.
Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
why don't you stay there in case some of the board members have questions? Richard?
I guess I have a variety of questions. I'm trying to figure out, because from the description that you've presented, Trish, it's not clear to me, like, what was the historic nature? Is it the location? Is it the person? Is it, because the building itself and the equipment that's currently on the lot doesn't seem to have that historic essence to it. So
Correct.
can you kind of clarify what the
Yeah,
evolution that makes it historic?
It's the fact that it's the oldest city park that it's designated. It doesn't have historic structures on the site.
And was it also plotted with the North Side Elementary School, and that's part of the reason too, or that's totally separate and it's
It's a
irrelevant?
separate designation. The Northside Elementary School, the Northside School is designated separately. They may be as part of the same plat originally, but this was designated separately and then identified separately.
And that's what thematic zoning would do. But, yes. But anyway, Richard, go
Okay,
ahead.
so this is a question for Parks. I mean, you've made comments in your application, but how did you determine the improvements that were requested by the park for the residents? Was that the residents that live nearby? Did you talk
Yeah,
to?
so part of our initial phase of the park run improvements was community outreach and finding out what the communities wanted for their respective park in their neighborhood. So these improvements that we're implementing are from years from public outreach that was done,
Right, but those general improvements to all the parks in the city, or are they geared or targeted towards this particular park? Well, how did you
So-
determine that these improvements were appropriate for this park?
So I would say there is a mix of both. So in terms of the splash pads per se, that's something that we're trying to implement citywide to standardize our parks and standardize what we have at each facility. So that's something that we are adding as a new amenity to this park. And then some of the other features are just things that may be more community driven. So for instance, the playground, we have an existing playground that the community's been asking for a shade. So we're gonna add a shade structure to help shade the existing playground.
So when it comes to the synthetic turf and the acrylic material, how that relates to the historic nature of the park?
So the turf, the only reason we're adding turf is for as a safety surface. It's not, we're not taking out the existing grass. There's no existing grass where that's going in. It's mulch, and we have to top that up regularly just to maintain the level of safety for the playground should someone fall down on it. And the turf is kind of it's an alternative to your pour-in-place surface, if you've seen that before, where there is an underlay so that when you do fall on it, you're protected, and it's spongy, and it helps with helping people from getting hurt ultimately.
Okay. Richard?
I just had one minor question to move off of what Trish had said regarding the screening. You mentioned having to encounter structural issues in regards to screening the AC. I'm
Yeah,
just trying
Because
both.
it's an existing building with an existing roof, so it's not designed to hold panels up there. So if you install something like that, if you install a mechanical screen that has to extend above the AC equipment, you're looking at a screen that might be, let's say, 4 feet tall. And because it's so high up, you're gonna experience a wind load. And that wind load is gonna want to obviously disturb the building, and it's gonna wanna, so you need to account for that.
Trisha, is that being done like regardless of whether it's a park facility, commercial building? And you mentioned zoning and building having.
Yeah, there
Is
is
it
a
per-
requirement for it. You know, we'd have to discuss with zoning on this particular
Yeah.
situation if they would,
Yeah, it's just an interesting waiver request. That's,
yeah.
You know, the other part of it is any structure or any part of structure that's added has to adhere to the hurricane codes. So that's part of the whole
Yeah, no,
structural
exactly,
issue.
and because it's not as simple as just screwing in a,
No, you can't
you know,
do that.
like
Right.
installing a fence or something, like
Right.
because it's so high up too.
Okay. Do you have anything else? Nothing?
Thanks, Mark.
Okay. I don't have any questions. I drive by this park a lot, and I think it needs the improvements, and I look forward to seeing it come alive again, because this sounds like you're bringing it into the 22nd century. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution of certificate of appropriateness for major alterations and across case number UDP HP 23027, located at 1000 North Andrews Avenue for improvements at Warfield Park, which includes the renovations and alterations to the existing community center building, signage, recreation of the interactive water feature, construction of the new stage structures, the sidewalk, and other site improvements based on items 1 and 2 from the review from the city staff.
And do you accept the two conditions?
Yes,
Yes.
based on the two conditions.
Okay. And we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alan. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, you guys opened that up to the public, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry.
Nobody wanted to speak. Nobody was here to speak. Okay. And our last case is case number UDP HP 23028, 351 Southwest 14th Way.
My turn.
Simone.
Okay, so this is a certificate of appropriateness for new construction of a one-story, single-family residence. It is located on a vacant land. The new design is a mid-century tropical modern architecture, and it is located in Sailboat Bend Historic District. Staff did find that it meets the criteria as set forth that we need to evaluate it for a certificate. And we have, staff finds that the application for the certificate of appropriateness for the new construction under case file number UDP HP 23028, located at 351 Southwest 14th Way, meets the criterion as outlined in sections 47-2411 D3CI, and partially meets the criteria as outlined under 47-2411 D3C3 as under the ULGR. The partial criteria is outlined in that section 4717, and we find that the sliding glass doors are not appropriate on the front elevation as part of this application, and an alternative door must be selected. Number 2, the width of the garage door is not approved as part of this application, and the door must be reduced in width to provide a door or a pair of doors that are 9 feet in width or less. Number 3, consideration given to including an additional design element above the garage door, like windows, for example, should be evaluated. Number 4, the property is located in an archaeologically significant zone, and a cultural resource assessment survey by a qualified professional is required. The completed survey must be submitted and reviewed by preservation staff prior to building permit application for demolition. For construction. Following the review of the completed survey, additional archaeological testing or monitoring comments may apply. Additional information is provided by the city's archaeological consultant dated August 24th, 2023, and was attached in your packets. Number 5, the application is subject to the approval by building, zoning, and all ULDL requirements, including landscape. Those are the conditions that we have identified.
Okay. And we did do disclosures. We didn't. So disclosures.
I've been by the property many times.
No disclosure. Richard?
No disclosure.
No disclosure.
Okay. And is there anyone in the public who wishes to speak? Oh, is the applicant here? Oh, we should, yes. Would you like to say something?
Greg Madar, applicant, along with my wife, Andrea. Just a little history on us building our proposed residence here is that it's been in my wife's family since the early 1930s. So I think the 1929 plat plan was done for her grandfather. And we just love the area, and the family worked with the city to create Preserve Park. So we have that to add to the element of where we would like to build our home, and we think the design really fits nicely in the area. So, and if there's any technical questions, Jay Archer, we've filed all the paperwork, can answer those, because I'll be
Okay.
off the tracks by then.
Okay, great.
And we got a lot of kudos of people we know in the area.
Yeah.
who
Okay.
talk to us, so.
Thank you. All right, guys, let's keep it quiet for a moment as you pass that around.
The plans are available on our website along with the agenda. So if anyone would like to take a look at them, they are available there. And Maurice, would you be able to pull up the slide presentation to the last slide?
You just passed it. That's it. Okay, so we can all see it now. Good. With that, did I ask if anybody in the public would wish to speak? Please. Please introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Maggie Hunt, and I live in Sailboat Bend, and I know, and talking about other projects that Mr. Madar has expressed liking to keep the plant life, and he values that, and I think this is a beautiful plan, and it just fits perfectly on that street, so I drool over your property every time I kayak by it. I'm really jealous.
Anyone else, please?
Yes, hello, my name is Ted and Sarah, and I just want to say thank you for at least, this kind of design and not just one of those big sugar cube looking things, which I totally detest. And I've been here many times, and God, I have such mixed feelings about this. It seems like next door where they're doing that demolition in there, they're just leveling the land right there. And the funny thing is, the sign outside says preserve. So it says, I don't see what's being preserved in that piece of land. I know that is not your land, but whatever we can do to make sure that as much of the foliage and the canopy is kept, that would be, I think well appreciated for a lot of people, especially for myself. And, but I'm just, it looks great. It is great. I just am upset to see what else is going on a few lots over with what seems to be the total just disregard for any plant life or any vegetation that is there. And it's just disheartening when I see that. And hopefully that won't be the norm in that area. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please.
Andrea McSweeney, Madar.
You can lower the mic,
Oh,
please.
what, for the short people?
Of
Okay.
course.
So my grandfather purchased that whole strip back in the 30s. He was an amazing man. He was a botanist by hobby. Communicated with people all over the world, which is why that whole lot looks like it does. There's actually a greenhouse still on the property. It's the last thing standing. If you walk down, you will see a glass greenhouse that's still standing. That was his. The property means a lot to me. Leaving it like that, that's my childhood. That's what I remember coming. My dad grew up on that property. So we are not planning on, we're taking out what needs to be taken out, whether it's damaged or, we've had the whole landscape people come in, the arborists, all that, but if we have our way, it's going to stay. My sisters own the adjacent property, so it's kind of all still in the family. We're the test case. They're going to decide what they're going to do after they see how we do with you guys.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Yeah, hi, good evening, Jay Archer, I'm the architect. In regards to landscape, to maybe put your mind at ease, we have, on the design team, we have EcoPlan, local landscape architects, that will be doing landscape planning with us. And, of course, our intention from the beginning is to maintain as much canopy and natural condition as we can. Matter of fact, on the plans, you'll see that there's an intention for the seawall to be sort of a natural rock bank, if we can get away with that with the city and seawall ordinances and whatever. And there's a raised walk intended to go out to the dock, so we won't be at grades. Well, the property's kind of low. You want to keep the grade as it is and get above it, right? So the idea is to take out what we have to do. We've had the tree survey, we've got the arborist report, and the house is sort of built around that major teak tree that you see in the sort of lower left quadrant. So anyway, we're completely on board with the notion of environmental design and being neighborly to the neighbors as well.
Okay.
Okay?
So while we have you up there, I just
You
have a
bet.
quick question. Are you okay with the conditions attached?
Most of them.
Well, why don't you go through, let's go through them and you can tell us.
Yeah, quickly, the garage is no issue. We can go to 8-foot doors, not a problem.
Yeah.
The idea of doing some sort of opening above the garage on this wall, I'd say that's a no-go. Because, why? Well, because it's going to add a sort of false condition to the design, right? It sort of adds confusion to the language. Right now, we've got, major windows already in the garage, and to put something over here is just kind of contrived.
But wouldn't that be in the bedroom on the second floor?
There's no second floor. This is
Oh, there's
one-
no second
yeah,
floor
it's a
there. Oh, that's
one-story
right.
house.
Okay.
That's why it's kind of spread out, because we want to tuck in under the trees.
Not even a round porthole.
Yeah, no. Not with
I know.
not with the design
There's no,
language.
okay.
Right.
Well, okay.
So I think two-door, a double door here is no problem. I wouldn't start creating voids up in this area. It just kind of confuses the thing, and it's, you talk about false historicism. Well, to me, that's kind of a false idea. This is already kind of pushing that idea a little bit by having windows, big windows in a garage. But we recognize that this is facing the street.
You may start a trend.
The trend's already out there in
I know,
various
I know.
iterations.
All right.
But yeah, so
What
anyway,
about some of the other conditions here?
The other condition here of
they are-
sliders.
They're pretty straightforward.
Well, the rationale for the sliders is, first of all, ventilation, flow-through
Right.
ventilation front to back. And when you look at the plan, this opening here is also carried through to the backside. And, having hinged doors as we all know down here, it's tough to have screen doors, right? So if you're going to open this, you'd have a screen with a slider. So that was the thinking.
Okay.
So we have a language, again, throughout the building of having sliders instead of hinge doors, but, you know, push comes to shove, we can figure something out.
Well, because
We could
it
do that.
it is in the Sailboat Bend ordinance, so that's
Yeah, if
why
you
it
know,
was
listen, I mean,
raised.
it's not a deal killer, right? We can figure it out. What else was there?
I think that's it. We did the sliding doors, we did the garage. They're the major ones.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Anything else, just let me know.
And anyone else to speak? Okay, board members?
I think you covered the two things are the concerns that I have. I agree with you. I don't think the window above the garage door is necessary, but having the two garage doors is probably good. I have a sense that if we're approving these mid-century modernist type of homes in the neighborhood, which we have already, part of the character of mid-century modernist homes is sliding glass doors. So you're kind of caught with carrying over the character of the mid-century modernist homes, but then you're trying to force other aspects onto it that don't apply. So I'm a little hesitant to why I would necessarily have to do that aspect on this home.
That was a question for?
No, just my hesitation with making it a consideration or requirement for the approval on it.
Because it's in the Sailboat Bend ordinance.
Well, but.
I'm just saying.
Yep. The other thing is with the archaeological thing, this has continued to come up, and I'm wondering, you have a consultant that reviews it, but who actually benefits from these archaeological surveys? I know the consultants, they're outside consultants that come in and they are hired privately to do this. It is for the benefit of the property owners. It doesn't seem to be something that the property owners benefit from. All the other things that come with codes, and they benefit from the construction aspect of it. But I'm having some concerns repeatedly having this as a requirement when residents don't actually benefit. It's the city, the state, the government that benefits from it. Right, but who pays for it? Consistently, we're having these additional costs that are heaped on to property owners in this district. So I'm wondering that archaeological zone that we brought up before, that goes beyond Sailboat Bend. Are the other properties that are within the archaeological zone also required to do the archaeological surveys? And if so, why aren't they even brought before Sailboat Bend or the historic board here?
When there's a development permit application, then if it is located in an archaeologically significant zone, they do have the same requirements. But it's administrative, the process for review. Even after it goes past the Historic Preservation Board, it's administrative unless there was a significant fine that would cause it to come before you for consideration for further study or further review.
Okay, so the property that's at 1000 Southwest 2nd Street originally was the Bark property. That currently has activity going on with temporary structures, with gravel that was brought in, heavy equipment. That's also in the archaeological significant zone, but there was no kind of survey that was done with that?
No, there's no ground disturbing work as part of or significant ground disturbing work as part of the temporary parcels and the gravel that's being placed on top of the dirt, but it doesn't necessarily, in that case, you're also implying about the weight of the machinery,
Right.
but that's not something we're concerned at this point with that site, since we do not have it designated as an archaeological site. That is only a concern with Rivermont in particular.
Okay, but you're requiring the adjoining properties or properties nearby continually to be having to do archaeological digs or surveys, yet that property wasn't brought before to do that. It was just automatically grandfathered or given a pass on it?
No, that property didn't have ground
Okay.
disturbing work as part of the scope,
Right.
so it didn't require that. It also didn't require a development permit.
Okay, that's my concern with the archaeological stuff that's continually going on.
Any other questions? Nope, thank you. Richard?
Just a few brief comments and some piggyback off what Richard mentioned regarding how we arrive at the proposed design, keeping in conformance and meeting this mid-century modern design style, which it seems like we seem to all like, but then yet pulling away from some of the functionality that would come with that design, because we're reverting back to the design guidelines, which to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You know, if we're going to follow through or ask people to keep in conformance, it's one thing to be very kind of by the book with what we're doing, but as a whole, I see this project meeting almost just about everything that we would want it to meet, even though I don't see a single staff response where there is something that is totally not meeting criteria. It all is partial. So in my view, especially even considering the garage, the way I perceive the garage, just on an elevation basis, I can't even see where if we break that door into two, how that's going to help the design. I think it's designed beautifully. So I don't know why we would sit here and start to chop it up. I think where there's a little bit of the benefit of the doubt that can be afforded here, I'm certainly one to afford it and provide it. I think the ventilation aspect of why those sliding glass doors make sense. So I would be willing to approve it as it is, as it's been proposed. Certainly if there was a significant enough revision, it would come back to us, but I don't see anything here that I would want to change. I think it's really well done.
Alan?
I just want to say to Greg and Andrea, thank you for the thoughtful design. I agree with what Richard just said and appreciate the architect's role and your family's work here in preserving. So I look forward to seeing the final product. Thank you.
Tim?
I'm good with my fellow board members' comments.
Okay. And I also think it's a great house. I think it's a wonderful interpretation of mid-century modern. And I like the way it sort of ambles around the site to save some of the trees. So kudos to the architect. With that, would somebody like to make a motion? Tim, why don't you make the motion?
Okay. And with the help of Sherry, I will
Of
make
course.
the motion to approve this project, and I don't have it all right in front of me to read it. Okay, where am I reading? I make a motion to approve the resolution for a certificate of appropriateness.
No, well, he's.
Well, no, that's the.
He hasn't gotten there yet.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead, Tim, you're good.
You're
You can
very
go ahead,
pushy
Tim.
tonight, Arthur. Very pushy. Certificate of appropriateness for new construction under case number UDP HP 23028, located at 351 Southwest 14th Way, based on the following findings of fact. Findings as outlined in the staff memorandum, and is subject to the following conditions, which are
Would you like to adopt all of the conditions 1 through 5 in the staff report,
thank you,
as well as the zoning review conditions?
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Do I need to read them?
No.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
And with that, is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Alan seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Good luck with everything. And with that is the end of our agenda. We did have some other things, I think. Shari, you wanted to bring something up?
Yes, so, of course, there's the issue of, I'm not sure which commissioners are up to appoint, board members, but clearly we need 3 more board members, and I'm not sure how that's handled, but I don't want to, talk about that part because I don't handle it. But there is a resolution that we have with the city. It is Resolution 20214, and basically it provides that with quasi-judicial items, that a board member is not allowed to participate on the phone or through Zoom or anything like that for quasi-judicial items. And they're not allowed to make quorum for you. Now, I think we may want to, if you're open to it, recommend tweaking this resolution. Not necessarily to make quorum in person, but what some folks may find problematic is that if you are absent somewhere out of town, that basically you're not allowed to even participate or even vote on the item despite the fact that there is quorum in person. There is no law that I know of preventing that other than our resolution that we have with the city. So it's just a suggestion. You don't have to adopt it, but basically what this resolution provides is that if you appear by phone and you have quorum in person, the only thing that you can essentially vote on with the type of items that we have before us is the minutes. So I'm not quite sure if that's a very good, valuable use of your time or anybody else's time who was appointed to this board or any other quasi-judicial board. I'm not sure if the commission may be open to changing it or not, but I just wanted to let you be aware of that resolution, that could be problematic for folks that may want to participate in boards, but may be absent from time to time, and after you have a certain period of absences, then of course you're removed from the board. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that if you weren't already, and just throw that out there, so.
Thank you. Anyone want to say anything about this?
Not on that subject matter, but I did get an email that I wanted to disclose with the board and the city from an outside source who had indicated that there was interest from the public or other avenues for discussing the incentives for historic preservation. We had talked about this once before, or several times before, and nothing kind of was brought forward, but I'm getting private emails now from people who are interested in having further conversations about this subject matter. So I'm not sure if we can proceed with this or have a focus group, as I'd mentioned, but there is outside interest in seeing some of these things advance.
Tricia, what would you suggest in this instance?
I mean, anything beyond a historic preservation board meeting would need direction from the city commission.
So we really can't do any.
We can make a request for the board, for the city commissioners to establish a focus group for this subject matter.
I like that idea.
But has that ever been done? Can the board establish a focus group? Only because I don't know how it works, because we couldn't have board members on it. Because they'd be talking to each other.
So the issue would be, just like with the Historic Preservation Board and Planning and Zoning Board, there's actual credentials that board members are supposed to have, not just a layperson that can come up with anything. There's actually requirements to be on this board. So if there is some sort of focus group or committee or something appointed, the commission would have to specify what the requirements may be, if they want any requirements, and those would be in a resolution. The only thing, though, is that the Historic Preservation Board, essentially, that's your purpose. If you have incentives, then bring them to us, and we've been open to everything that you've had to give us, and we've told you about the law and about how that would work, and we have passed several incentives with the city. I'm not sure who is more qualified than you to opine on possible incentives, but The only concern I would have is to be redundant, because just as you can speak to members of the public and bring back your feedback, and we can, address those incentives here, there may be another, I'm not sure the need for another group of people that may or may not be as qualified as you to opine on possible incentives. But if that's what you desire, then you can communicate that to the city commission. But we are here to assist you with any incentives that you want. There hasn't been a single incentive that you brought to us that we haven't been able to address with you. So I'm not quite sure how useful another committee or another board or another group of people would be, because we're it. So, we're just going to tell them the same thing. If it's a different person that's telling us the same thing that you already did, we're just going to opine the same way. So I'm not sure, whatever the message is, we're here to receive it, and we can evaluate it and look at the law and Tricia from a professional standpoint. But another board, committee, or group of people, I'm not quite sure how useful that would be to any of us, but if that's what you want, I respect it, and you can communicate that to the city commission. You have 3 open board seats, so if there are people that you feel are useful for purposes of incentives, by all means, I would recommend communicating that to the city commissioners. That's another issue that we should address. There are 3 vacant seats on this board, so rather than creating another group of people to opine on things, you have 3 seats that are open.
So we can write to the commissioners and say, this is a problem?
Yeah, you can communicate that to the city commissioners to appoint people. If you know of people that have some incentives that I haven't heard, I'll be glad to listen to them, and they can be board members if the commissioners feel that they are, appropriate for this board. But my position on the matter is getting together a whole new group of people, a committee, et cetera, doing exactly what you all are doing. I think you're great at what you do, and we're here to listen to you. And we've passed a lot of incentives since I've been here for 5.5 years. We are not adverse to any incentives. It's just that I'm a lawyer with the Florida Bar for 16 years now, and I have to abide by the law in the state of Florida. And so I can't tell you to do what you want, because that's in conflict with my bar license.
Right.
But whatever you'd like to do, I'm here to assist you to do that. I just have to do it within the law.
A little bit of what I'm hearing is that I should take it upon myself to talk to some of these individuals on my own, create my own focus group to kind of get feedback from various different people.
No, that's not what I'm opining at all.
Well, that's how I gather data, is by talking to people about this subject matter. So, and there are various different people in different trades that would help for me to understand what their interest and their needs for creating incentives. And I don't feel like there are general contractors or landscapers or other people that are affected by some of these guidelines that we have that would be helpful to have their insights and their input in this process.
What I'm saying to you is I'm agreeing with you. If you'd like other people's input, like I said, there are 3 vacant board seats. I think that is a great way to address the vacancy with whoever these individuals are, that you respect their opinion. We'd be glad to have them on the board. We just don't have the authority to appoint them. That's for the city commission to do. But you have 3 vacant seats, so whoever these persons are, we'd be glad to talk with them on this board. But my position on the matter is that I'm not quite sure how getting another committee that would be, quite frankly, redundant is useful to anyone. You're just going to take more staff time. We're going to have to attend those committee meetings, and if they're saying the similar things to what you're saying, then it's just more time being spent with a different group of people saying the same thing.
I wanted to reiterate what Shari's saying, because I understand how another committee might be useful, but in the past, what we've done is when you talk to a contractor or you talk to somebody who has a good suggestion, bring it to the board, and then we can all talk about it. But I don't see how any of us are set up to form and manage another subcommittee when we'd have to talk to each other. And besides that, it's way beyond what our responsibilities should be.
And another thing that the board should be aware of is that at these public meetings, after we're done with our agenda items, anybody can come up and speak and say whatever they want. So if they have any ideas, we're here to listen. Folks shouldn't be afraid. This is a public meeting for everyone. If they have any ideas to make this city better with incentives, we will be glad to hear it and evaluate it accordingly.
Thank you. Well,
That's the chair, not me.
that's fine, but go to the, we welcome the former chair of this board. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, David Kiner, and long time on the board, long time being the chair of the board. But more importantly, a long time doing focus groups. I came out of with a degree in psychology, and that is the best way to learn something. And the board doesn't have to speak about anything, but an open discussion where people who have actually experienced what it's like to go through the board and have had problems with getting houses approved, roofs put on, et cetera, they're the best people to tell you what are the problems that we're coming into. Otherwise, the board and myself, you just have to kind of make up what you think are the problems. But when you hear it from the architects, et cetera, you're not asking them to come up with ideas about how they could formulate advantages for them or a way of getting some kind of assistance. That's for you guys to come up with. But they're are the ones that can give you the laundry list of everything that goes wrong and what are the problems that they've actually experienced. From that, you can figure out how to simplify it. You know, that's your decision. But it's just like the problem that we are having in Sailboat Bend right now with all of this requirements for excavation to doing all these digs. If it really is, for instance, we're wanting as a board to be able to have the HPB listen to what our problems are about that. But we can't get anywhere, although we've asked, can we come and have it, a discussion? We have only been told, well, it has to be only on the agenda, which I understand the HPB has to do that. But we're just waiting to have that appear on the agenda and to have our invitation that we can come in and talk and tell you what our problems are and what we'd like to learn about it. But as of now, I think that most of the people in Sailboat Bend Civic Association feel that they're just sort of left out. We can't do anything about it. So by all means, if you guys are able to open up a discussion,
Let me
us
ask a
talk.
question. With the Sailboat Bend Civic Association, you already are a focus group, in a sense.
Yes.
And I'm sure you've come up on a daily basis with different suggestions that might work. Why can't the president send something to this board, or Tricia, or both? Send it to Tricia, and express what are the things that your members feel should be changed.
Yeah, we can do that. We just don't know exactly the right procedure, how we have to do it, and under what circumstances can we say things.
You're all citizens, so you can just make a suggestion. I mean, am I stepping out of bounds?
May I just clarify? So I'm not quite sure who said that you need to be on the agenda. You don't. Under Florida law, you can come here and say whatever you'd like. It does not have to be on the agenda. I'm sure that all of you have watched commission meetings and people say all kinds of things that are not on the agenda, hence why we have such late meetings. But you do not have to be on the agenda. You can come here and just like you're speaking now, whatever you wish to bring up regarding historic preservation, we're here to listen and we can hear it. So you don't have to be on the agenda. That is not legally correct. And I
Okay.
know I haven't told you that, but I'm the lawyer for the board, and I'm here to tell you that you do not have to be on the agenda.
No, well, that's good news, and I apologize if I've misrepresented this, but that's the way I read a particular email that I got. So.
Yeah, and I did write that, I think what I was alluding to is if the board wanted to vote on a particular matter that was brought before them, then it would need to be placed on an agenda. But that I was going to get back to you with further information about
Yeah, so
part
I
of your
wouldn't have
request.
spoken tonight, actually, had you
So,
not said that.
From a legal standpoint, so unless it's a quasi judicial item or items that are mandated to be noticed under our code, even if the board does vote, just like sometimes folks come up with communications to the commission and they vote on it, that's not on the agenda. We've had city attorneys fired, that's not on the agenda. It doesn't say city attorney to be fired tonight, that's not on the agenda, okay? That's not required to be in the agenda, okay? So I just want to make that clear. If you'd like to say anything, or anybody else from Sailboat Bend or throughout this city, you're welcome to come here and say what you want to say.
Just to make sure everybody understands, ours are more in the form of questions as opposed to trying to make some vote come forward. We just want to understand some things that we don't understand, and that's what's confusing the people in Sailboat Bend, because no one can give the right answer that we need.
So I cannot give any legal advice because I represent the city. So I am the board's attorney, so I give the board legal advice. So I cannot answer any questions from the public because legally I'm not their lawyer. However, Tricia is here and you don't need a meeting to speak with her. If folks have questions regarding historic preservation, they can reach out to her offline. But it may not be appropriate to have a question and answer for an hour, 2 hours here during the meeting. She's available outside of the meeting. But again, she is here. Any question you have, feel free to ask her if you want to ask it in a public forum. But generally speaking, when it comes to that, if there's going to be a period of time where you're asking questions, then it may be more helpful to have it on the agenda, but legally it's not required.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Real quickly, yeah.
This has been a pleasure coming to this meeting for the first time. My name is Mindy Noble, and there seemed to be a question, if I was hearing it correctly, about what incentivizes someone. Why is it significant if something's an
Speaking to the mic.
why is something significant if it's an archaeological site? Well, while I was sitting there, myflorida.com, Department of State, Division of Historical Resources, Archaeology, Cultural Resource Protection, Conservation Easements, and Tax Benefits. Whole section, right on MyFlorida. It might help the board to review it, to get a better understanding as to how archaeological sites, whether they're private or public, may or may not have a tax benefit to the owner, whether it's a private or a public property.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
a selling point to somebody who's
Okay.
got to do it.
But is that implying it's an archaeological site already, or it's just in the zone?
Okay, all right, thanks. One more, and then we're going to have to cut off the discussion.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, thanks you for all the information.
Miss, could you please state your name so that the
Oh,
clerk can
Maggie
get it
Hunt.
down? Thanks.
I live in Sailboat Bend. Just to let you guys know, as far as incentives go, so far what we have, really monetarily, the only thing that helps is not having to pay some of the permit fees, which is a few $100s, and that's appreciated, I'm sure. But the other ones, the parking, the transfer of developmental rights, and there might be another one, they really haven't helped financially, and they don't. And in many cities that I've looked at, those transfer of development rights are never used, and they haven't been used here yet. And so I think we will get together and come back with some suggestions as far as maybe some things, incentives that have been done in other places. Also, I just want you to know that these archaeological digs, I know of individuals that live in our neighborhood that it's been over $10,000. And we have another individual that wants to raise the level of their house in a small house, and they're working class people, and I don't know the figure there, but it's not insignificant. And I just, from an ethical position, I don't know if it's the state requires it or if this is a local thing, but to say we want this data, now you pay for it, I just don't think that's right. I mean, maybe to bear some of it, but to bear all of it, ethically, in my opinion, it's not right.
Thank you. I think we have to end this discussion right now.
Okay, I just
Because
opened it-
we're going off in too many different directions.
But opened it up because of the email I got and the fact that there was never any further decisions on a focus group. One of the things that a focus group does is a moderator, and what you can do is have a designated group of tradespeople come on an agenda item to discuss their concerns.
But I'm just not following what that does from the standpoint that, okay, we have that, let's play it out. They come in. What is a GC or a shell contractor going to provide to us in the way of them being disincentivized to work in, let's say, Sailboat Bend? How are we going to gain material information that we're going to be able to formalize into an incentive from that? They come in and tell us, we don't like working there, there's too much red tape. Then
Yeah,
what?
that's
What do we do with it?
I didn't look at it from that perspective, though. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I
Yeah.
agree with that. But I looked at Richard's suggestion more in the terms of the ownership and say, why are we bearing this financial weight
But are we speaking
forever?
specifically on the archaeological aspect?
No, I'm not being specific to the archaeological. I'm being, when he said he was getting some, were you referring specific to archaeological, Richard?
No, it was a particular email that was sent to me about the incentives, how that they had ideas and that they would like to see further discussion on that. So I'm just bringing it forward because I'm getting them, and so.
Why can't they?
I think we
present
made
it?
progress there, and Sherry laid it out pretty good. And she was very articulate about it, that we are here already, we are talking about it. Richard Rosa just brought it up, a good point, that there are some things that can be gained and some things that are pretty obvious that we're going to hear. But where the question I have is, where on our agenda and in our board meetings does it allow for the public to get up and say, by the way,
For the good
I
of
have
the
something.
city.
So for the good of the city, but
Anybody can get
in
up
all
and
the
say
meetings I've been at, I've never seen anybody raise their
Well,
hand
Well,
or
because
be asked to.
That's the purpose of it.
But I'm just asking, I've never seen that happen before.
Okay. One last. I know. I mean, I didn't mean it that way.
No, it's okay. Michaela Conca, Broward Trust for Historic Preservation. So I'm here really right now for some clarity. And yes, I am aware of the fact, for the good of the order, that the public has an opportunity to come forward and speak and give their opinions about how the board is conducting themselves and how it all interacts with the ULDR within the city's code and guidelines. My question, though, is really to Tricia and Shari. You, if I understand you correctly, you said that you're not there to answer any questions because you represent the city of Fort Lauderdale legally. And so if a person from the community comes forward and has a question specific to HPP, you are in no way have the ability to answer their question?
So it's about a legal question. So it's kind of like if somebody comes and says to me, hey, can I legally do this? Can I, is there an exception in the code for this? If they ask me from the public, I cannot answer that because I don't represent them. However, if the board member asks me not for that person, but as a board question of, hey, how does this code apply? Are there exceptions here? I can answer the board's question because my representation is strictly to the board. I can't answer a public's question because I don't represent them. That would be a violation of the Florida Bar rules.
Thank you, Sherry. I understand that. So as a member of the community, I would put my question to the board, and then they could in turn?
Not necessarily, because the types of questions that I answer are specifically for the board. So for example, when it came up about somebody being told about something needing to be on the agenda, I had to address that because legally, the board can hear from you or anyone else right now about pretty much anything. You could talk about that, you could say Pinocchio's out there, I can't stop you, okay?
Right.
So the point is that I had to clarify that, but that's not a member of the public asking me for my legal opinion. It's important for the board to understand legally what's allowed and what's not allowed. And so that is how I answer questions. So if you were to come up to me and say, how do I file this historic preservation designation application, and can you walk me through it? I can't do that legally because I represent the board.
Thank you, I understand that. And then my last question is really for Tricia. And I guess what I would like to know is, as president of Broward Trust and representing the nonprofit organization that our main focus is historic preservation, if I so choose to start attending from that position, my comments are going to be geared based on how we feel and what we would like to see the HPB accomplish. Is that something that you, as the director, as in your position with the city of Fort Lauderdale, can take in, listen to, and bring back to the city based on whatever it is that I'm bringing to the table? Do you understand my question?
So if I could just chime in, so anything that you tell Tricia, if there's a legal issue, she will likely come to me and we can talk about it and see if it is permitted legally.
Sure.
And I will be glad to discuss that with her internally, and if necessary, we go to the board, or if it's appropriate, go to the commissioners, et cetera.
Sure,
But
sure.
if you would like to reach out to her and give her any sort of opinion on any of these matters or suggestions, we'll be
Sure.
glad to hear it and discuss it internally, and if necessary, in front of the board or any other body.
As opposed to doing it in this process, as far as,
You could do it either way. It's up to
Yeah.
you. There's nothing preventing you from doing it this way or the other way.
As a board member, just one comment. I would think a lot of your concerns that may be being raised might want to be run through Tricia.
which we do. We
Which you
do that
just
already.
because She knows the code, she knows
Sure.
everything and how it interrelates, which is much more than we could answer for you.
Right, Arthur. So, yeah, and I'm well aware of that process as well. But what I did not know, and I learned this evening and from previous meetings, is that at this moment in time, during the tail end of the HPB meeting, when the good of the city comes up, it's an opportunity for the public, the community, to come forward and express their feelings, their opinions, their ideas, whatever. And I just want to I want to be clear where I can go with this based on who I represent. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tricia, sorry, just one brief question. We're down to 6 people on the board now. Does the city in any way keep like a bench of people, like anything? Because it seems hard to believe that there's no one in mind that we can reach out to try to avoid.
That's why I mentioned that resolution, because
Right.
for people that travel for their jobs, et
Right.
cetera, it can be problematic.
For
But
sure.
Again, if no one wants to entertain that, that's fine, I
Yeah.
respect that. So that's run by Tricia in the clerk's office, how that's dealt with, but it's up to the commissioner to appoint when they deem necessary or who they want appointed. I'm not sure what the status of that. Are you able to tell us anything?
There is an application form available on the city clerk's website for
Right.
anyone that would like to apply to a board.
But just for example, like, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like for someone that just came off planning and zoning because they've termed out, or someone that's served in the past, there's no thought at the city level to then, let's see if this person might have an interest in HPB. I mean, certainly I'm happy to think about it, having leave the meeting, coming hopefully back before next meeting, thinking of someone. It just seems tough for an applicant to have to walk away like what happened tonight because of the shortage that we have here. It just seems, I would be extremely frustrated as an applicant.
Yeah.
And
as far as I understand, when someone does apply, it goes into a book of applicants that's provided to the commissioners, and the commissioners can review that book and select an applicant that's appropriate for boards. It ends up on an agenda at the city commission regular meetings, and then it has to be voted on by the full commission and approved at that time. So usually there's a roster of people considered every regular city commission meeting. But
is there any?
we haven't had anyone for Historic Preservation Board.
Is there any ability to serve on 2 boards at once? Is there anything precluding that? Can someone on zoning sit on HPV?
I think there might be, but I have to check. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
Let me just look.
Just trying to even get one more person in the room, you know, like that would be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
And just to kind of comment back to Michaela a little bit, you know, if she were to send a letter or communication to me to request that it be passed on to the board, you certainly received multiple communications that way on different matters and items. So I'm always happy to do that. I can't really be a conduit of information, so otherwise it would be better to come here in person and speak or provide me with something to pass along to the board members.
And I'm always grateful for probably speaking out of hand, but I'm always grateful for your support
Okay,
to the trust in that way.
thanks.
Trisha, one more follow-up. I'm sorry, Arthur, real quick. We have a board training next week, right? The 14th?
Yes, I have that.
Can we put up pom-poms for HPB to get someone here when we go there?
Well, I mean, something that the board can always do is send a communication to the city commission
I think
about
we should all write to the
Let's
commissioners.
bulletin that really quickly. All right, so you want us to each individually write a letter to the city? I mean, how do you want
No,
that?
you don't have to write a letter. You
Sure.
could actually
Email.
do a motion now.
Let's do a
That's
motion.
communicated to the commissioners at the
Okay.
next commission
Okay.
meeting
Yeah.
saying, we need 3 more people.
Yeah.
Can you please appoint?
So,
I'd like
we should say
to make a
something,
motion.
we should say something that
Yeah.
it's been a hardship at the board because of the short board.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to make a motion to the commission, to the city commission, to take an understanding of our current roster of 6 board members and to plead with them to please either go back into prior applicants to either revisit those applications or to work with us in tandem with the city to be able to put as many as 3 people on the board as soon as the next meeting, if not certainly 1 or 2 people, so that we don't have the same occurrence, noting in the motion, I don't know if we know this in the motion, but I'd like to add it, that we had to have someone turn away this meeting because of a lack of a quorum.
All right, would somebody
have that,
like to
Jamie?
second that motion?
Second.
Second. All in
Let me
favor?
just make sure that Jamie has it right. 'Cause,
Yeah, please.
What happens is it gets communicated to the city commission.
We can clean it up, I know
And
that
then
was.
if they don't get it, then they're like, somebody explain it. And if no one's there from the board, then it's kind of like.
By all means, Sherry, if
know.
you want to,
Yeah. No. I like what you said. I get it completely.
Okay.
I just want to make sure she does.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Tim,
Second.
Okay, Jamie, do you mind just reading that again? Because it has to go to the commission and we want to make sure they understand. You don't have it?
okay, I'll repeat it,
Okay,
that's fine.
okay. Okay, but, all right, another question I have.
Yep.
Does anyone want to go to the commission meeting to explain this? Because sometimes it's better to have a board member there to explain what the reason is for this request and how important it is to you. You don't have to, it's just a suggestion.
I'm happy to go if I don't have a conflict that evening. Do we happen to know the next date?
It would be September 19th. Well, it probably won't be on that agenda. It just depends.
Won't make it?
Well, it would either be September 19th or October 2nd,
So it would
or
be,
October 3rd, I'm so sorry.
it would be a conference meeting agenda item, so it would be where they have communications from the board. So usually it's at the beginning unless something happens.
I'm happy to attend on behalf of HPB if you think it'll be helpful.
Okay, do the board members want that, or we have to
I
make sure
think
you all agree?
it's always helpful to
Okay.
have somebody.
I mean, if for some reason I cannot make it, we still have that on the agenda, correct?
Yes, you do, as
okay.
long as the motion is clearly written, and if not, I think Tricia's here, that she can, they'll probably call her up if you're not there. So,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
I have one more
for the-
cleanup question. Don't kill me.
But you've had two.
I know. Well,
more.
this is the last one. Strike through. I'm out. If we get a call from someone from the public openly that's not sitting on, sometimes applicants will call, have any questions, but let's say we don't have, we have a member of the public that's calling to, let's just say, air their concerns. I got such a call, didn't really take it anywhere. But are we allowed to have open communication with the public in regards to certain calls without any real restrictions on what's discussed there?
Yes, you are. It's just that if the matter involves a quasi-judicial item, you would just have to make a disclosure if that's some sort of issue that's brought up.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
That was a little bit of the concern with the email I'm getting, is like, I can't really feel comfortable responding with my thoughts or my input, because then it conflicts with me as a board member, is what I felt. So that's why having a discussion with the public about these matters is a challenge.
what email are you referring to?
I got a private email regarding incentives that they wanted to have discussions about this and provide input. And so, because I've raised it and nothing happened, I wanted to bring it up, say, I'm getting these emails privately now, so I just kind of shut it down and didn't discuss it with them because I thought it was inappropriate.
It's not, but if you'd like to forward the emails to us, we'll be glad to look at them and evaluate them, and we can share our opinion with the board. It's whatever you'd like to do, but you can engage with the public. Just remember that if it comes up as a quasi-judicial item or some sort of item, you just have to make that disclosure. But you can talk with the public as you see fit.
Okay.
Okay.
Richard, thank you. I want to just make the comment to keep the door open on listening to the public and keep us talking to each other about how we can make things happen, how we could do historic preservation and improve the incentive situation, look for more money, look for more incentives, talk to each other. I think the way you explain it to me is, if I have a conversation with somebody long before they're even in front of us about, hey, what should I do if I have a historic building and I want to put a roof on it, a door on it, or tear something down, I can have that conversation. But if they show up here a month later after they submit an application, I need to recall that conversation and disclose it. That's the procedure.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay, good. So do I have hear a motion to adjourn?
Just one
more?
additional
I'm sorry. One more,
thing.
Richard?
No, just a reminder about next Thursday. We have the training through the National Alliance for Preservation Commissions. That'll be starting at 4 p.m. at the Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport in the Red Tails Conference Room. So I'll be sending out an agenda for that shortly.
Does anybody else have one more item?
I move to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
Seconded.
Seconded? All in favor, say aye.
Amen.
Good night.
Hallelujah.